What's up, psychedelic investors? It's your boy James here, coming at you with a brand new episode, and I am super excited to share this news with you. So Compass Pathways just announced that they're planning on launching a brand new Phase 2 clinical trial. Now, as I'm sure all of you guys already know, Compass Pathways has recently wrapped up a Phase 2b clinical trial using their proprietary form of psilocybin, COMP360, to attempt to treat treatment-resistant depression. And we're expecting results of that soon, in the next few weeks to month or two. And the reason that one is so exciting is because it will be the largest ever psychedelics clinical trial. There's over like 200 patients. And also it's the furthest advanced ever psilocybin clinical trial, being in Phase 2b. However, while we're all waiting with bated breaths for that, they give us a little piece of red meat just to tide us over until we see those results. So this piece of red meat is a new Phase 2 clinical trial using their proprietary COMP360, but this time it's to treat PTSD. Now, this is really exciting because A, Compass Pathways is expanding their product pipeline, so if you're an investor in Compass Pathways, then that's great news. And B, if you're looking to try to heal as many people as possible, it's great that we're starting to get other companies working on PTSD using other indications. So I'm sure most of you guys are also aware that MAPS recently had a Phase 3 clinical trial attempting to treat PTSD using MDMA, and the results of that were absolutely gangbusters, fantastic. It was something along the lines of, it was actually 67% of people improved so much that they no longer qualified to be diagnosed with PTSD. In other words, they were cured, and another 21% of people improved significantly. However, they still had PTSD. So what's exciting about this trial is we will get to compare and contrast the effectiveness of psilocybin to treat PTSD and MDMA to treat PTSD. After all, if you're looking at this from a humanistic perspective, you want to see which drugs are the most effective in a therapy setting so that we can figure out how to best help everybody involved. And perhaps some drugs are better in particular circumstances than others, but we just don't know. We don't have enough data, which makes this brand new clinical trial super exciting because we're going to get data and we're going to be able to compare psilocybin to treat PTSD versus MDMA to treat PTSD. So without further ado, let's jump into the press release that Compass Pathways put out today. I'm going to go ahead and put that on the screen for you. And what we're going to do is we're just going to read through it. We're going to stop periodically and discuss what is happening, make sure everybody understands what is said in this press release. Alrighty, so it's up on the screen now, and we can just go ahead and read. Compass Pathways, ticker symbol CMPS, today announced it will be conducting a Phase 2 clinical trial to assess the safety and tolerability of COMP360 psilocybin therapy in post-traumatic stress disorder. This study expands Compass's research pipeline in psilocybin therapy with COMP360, the company's proprietary formulation of synthetic psilocybin, which Compass is currently developing for treatment-resistant depression. The Phase 2 multi-center fixed-dose open-label COMP201 study will enroll 20 patients to evaluate the safety and tolerability of COMP360 psilocybin therapy in people who suffer with PTSD resulting from trauma experienced as adults. Whoa, there is a lot of information to break down in that one sentence. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to break down all the information in that sentence. So first of all, Phase 2, already talked about that. Multi-center, it's happening multiple places. Coolio. Fixed dose open label study. So this is the first important part here, guys. So when it says that it is an open label study, what that means is there is no control group. This means that it's going to limit the amount that we can extrapolate from whatever data they provide, because we don't know how much of whatever effectiveness we see will be attributable to the placebo effect. So that doesn't mean that there's anything necessarily wrong with this trial. It just means that we are limited in the amount that we can extrapolate from it. And at most, the only thing we can say from the data we eventually get from this study is that it will justify larger placebo-controlled studies. So the next important part to point out is that there's only 20 participants. So not only is it a open label study, but there is also a very small population that are being tested here. So again, this just limits the amount that we can extrapolate from it once data eventually comes out. Small population and it's open label. That doesn't mean it's not exciting. It is exciting, but we just need to keep in mind these little bits of caveats here. And then the last kind of interesting point in this sentence is that everybody that's involved in this trial has trauma that they experienced as an adult. Now, I don't know how it would differ from somebody who experienced trauma as a child as compared to trauma as an adult. Maybe there are different symptoms, but it's just a little interesting detail that they mentioned in here, so I thought I would kind of highlight that. Continuing to read. Participants will receive a single 25 milligram dose of COMP360 psilocybin. So we've talked about this before, 25 milligrams seems to be kind of the standard dose that all these different companies are trying to use with psilocybin, and that is a large dose. It'd be like north of 3.5 to 4 grams, I believe, of dried shrooms. So again, enough for an individual to have a very strong hallucination, a very strong experience. So these 25 milligrams are given in conjunction with specialist psychological support in line with the COMP360 psilocybin therapy protocol and will be followed up for 12 weeks. So this is a little bit, I don't know what the right word is, I'm disappointed that they're only following up with these people for 12 weeks because we might have fantastic results at 12 weeks, but part of the areas of comparison that I want to see between MDMA and psilocybin are for how long the effectiveness holds. Are people still feeling the results after 6 months, after a year, after 2 years? And that will be kind of one of the key components in determining which one of these drugs is more efficacious, in my opinion. And of course, this is just an early phase clinical trial. We're going to get 2B, and eventually we're going to get phase 3 trials. So we'll probably get that type of data at that point, but just something I thought I would point out. The primary endpoint of the study is to assess the safety of COMP360 psilocybin therapy. So again, this is kind of sounding like very phase 1-ish, for those who don't know, phase 1, the primary endpoint is usually to assess the safety. So that's what they're doing here. And honestly, I'm not really concerned about this. At this point, we've seen like dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of psilocybin studies, and I don't think I have ever read of even one adverse event that has happened in any of these studies. So I think it's safe to say that we're going to see the same thing here. It's going to come out and be like, psilocybin is completely safe in the population group of people that have PTSD. Just a prediction, but I think I'm pretty safe in making that prediction. Secondary endpoints will measure the efficacy in improving PTSD symptoms, functionality, and quality of life. So this is what we are more interested in, because again, we're already kind of assuming it's going to be safe to take. So we want to know how efficacious is it in treating PTSD. And then we can take that data, and again, very early data, but we can take that data and then compare it to how efficacious MDMA is. And again, we can do that for quality of life, functionality, etc. Now we're going to read a quote from the CEO, George Goldsmith. He says, "We have made great progress in developing COMP360 psilocybin therapy for patients suffering with treatment-resistant depression and are pleased to be able to expand development into the indication of PTSD, another area of significant unmet need. As many as 1 in 20 people in the UK suffer with PTSD, and up to 40% of those are not helped by existing treatments." So this is a pretty shocking statistic, and I can't imagine that 1 in 20 or 1 in 5 people, 1 in 20 people or 5% of people that I meet on the street are suffering with PTSD. That sounds like an epidemic to me. That sounds terrifying. But if that stat is true, then it obviously shows the need for a treatment like psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy or MDMA-assisted psychotherapy to treat PTSD. And the fact that 40% of people that are undergoing treatment right now get no effect from it is equally horrifying. We need to be doing whatever we can as a society to help ease the burdens that are on these people. Because again, 1 in 20 people is a huge number. And I'm in Canada, but I'm sure the stats are pretty similar here. This is an urgent problem, and we are determined to do what we can to transform mental health care and bring new, evidence-based therapies to those who so desperately need them. And now just reading a couple of stats on PTSD. It says PTSD is a mental health condition that can impact quality of life and lead to diminished cognitive, psychosocial functioning, fractured relationships, inability to maintain employment, substance abuse, high healthcare utilization costs, increased depression, and suicide risk. People who experience PTSD may relive their traumatic experiences through nightmares and flashbacks and have difficulty sleeping and feel detached or estranged. So yeah, it's pretty shitty to have PTSD is kind of the summary of that bullet point. Alrighty guys, so just taking a step back, I'm going to give you kind of some of my thoughts around this, just to round out the episode. So first and foremost, and I guess this is a great time to say full disclosure, I am a Compass Pathways shareholder, but just a tiny one. I think I have like less than $1,000 in Compass Pathways. So again, very, very small percentage of my portfolio, like 0.5%, less than 0.5% of my portfolio, but I do own some Compass Pathways shares. But what I was saying was, as a Compass Pathways shareholder, it is exciting to see them expand into trying to treat other indications. One of my biggest hesitations about investing in Compass Pathways is the fact that they are kind of going all in on one treatment, and that is using their synthetic crystallized psilocybin, COMP360, to treat treatment-resistant depression, which obviously is a huge need. But we don't know yet whether psilocybin is going to be the best medication for this, LSD is going to be the best medication for this, DMT is going to be the best medication for this, and they kind of felt like they had all their eggs in one basket as compared to a company like MindMed, which I'm also a shareholder in, a much larger shareholder, that has like 20 different programs that they're working on. So if one fails, it's not the end of the world. Anyhow, this is just a long-winded way of saying I'm super happy that they now have a second program, and by the way, they also have investigator-initiated programs, so it's not like this is all their eggs in one basket. So they have third parties that are using COMP360 to treat, I believe, anorexia, suicide headaches, other things, and Compass Pathways will get the data for that. So it's not like they're exactly doing only one thing, but in terms of what the company themselves is actually running, up until this moment, it was just that one clinical trial, so it's great to see a second major clinical trial on the horizon. Super excited about that, and also excited just from a more holistic perspective of being able to compare and contrast the effectiveness of different drugs on the same indication. In this case, the indication is PTSD. Alrighty guys, I'm going to cut it off here because I actually have a meeting in 5 minutes that I have to prepare for. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hug your mom, definitely hug your mom. And most importantly, comment down below. I want to know what you guys are thinking about this. Is this an exciting program? Are you hyped about this? I know I'm hyped about this. So make sure you definitely comment down below. It really helps the algorithm. It really helps the channel out. I love you guys all so much. Oh, and one last thing, make sure you go check out psychedelicspotlight.com. They are our partners. They put out amazing content on psychedelics, and they focus on cultural issues. They focus on economic issues. They focus on scientific issues. Very well-rounded and a holistic approach, so definitely go check them out. I love you guys all. Thank you so much for always supporting the channel. I'm James from the Psychedelic Investor, and I'll see you next time.